Hello again, it is Christmas here in the clouds, and we've been out today collecting our Charlotte no-dig Christmas potatoes for Christmas dinner. These things are gorgeous, straight from the ground into the pot, slathered in butter. There's nothing better. Now we've been trialing a couple of different mulches for our no-dig potatoes this year. So that's all the potatoes now mulched with either the straw or the grass clippings. Now we got roughly 6 times more potatoes than we planted, which is really quite impressive. So here you go, the results of our no-dig Christmas potato experiment. So how did we get here, and which mulch did the best? We planted these potatoes back in mid-August using a no-dig technique, which means I just put the potatoes on the surface of the soil, then covered half with straw and half with grass. Now we did have a slight Hazel problem when we first put these potatoes in. She thought the straw was a wonderful bed and she rolled around on them, didn't you? Hopefully she didn't break too many of the new shoots as they were coming up, but they managed to get to a decent size. We're about to find out. And back in November, I did come down for a sneak peek to see how the potatoes were doing. They're about the size of a small hen's egg. At that point, we had a frost outside of about -8, so anything growing outside would have been caught by the frost and no longer be growing. But inside, they're protected by the polytunnel, and the potatoes were still growing, which is really quite amazing. So hopefully they've done a good bit of growing since then. Let's have a look. Hello, puppy. Good girl. This is very exciting. Is Hazel going to help harvest potatoes? Are you? Aha, plenty of beautiful ones. How big that is. Fantastic. Unfortunately, the mice got some of them. Hopefully, there'll be plenty of nice ones to get. There we go. All those from one seed potato. It's impressive. It's a clod of earth, you noodle. So that is all the potatoes from under the straw. All of this from just 8 seed potatoes. That's really impressive. Let's see what's under the grass. Harvesting potatoes like this is so much easier than digging them out of the ground with a fork, and not least of which because it removes the risk of piercing them with your fork, and then you wind up with broken soil-filled potatoes. This is amazing. Just pull the grass back and here they are. So all this grass that I'm taking away will be wonderful compost and mulch. We'll just use it around our other plants in here. Look at that. Fantastic. When you harvest potatoes, it really is important to get every last one of them out. Each of these potatoes could grow into a whole new plant. So if you leave it in the soil, they'll grow, or if you allow them to be in the grass that you use for composting, you'll wind up with potato plants where you don't want them. They'll be a weed. Sort of once you have potatoes though, you sort of always do. There's some that escape notice and they'll wind up growing anyway. I'm gonna need a bigger bowl. Look at that. This is the easiest potato harvesting ever. No dig technique. Doing this every time. And that's it. And more potatoes. Wow. So once you've harvested your potatoes, you can use all of these straw and grass clippings as mulch for your other plants to keep them happy all winter long. Now if you saw our video on planting these no-dig potatoes, I said we were going to put 10 under the straw and 10 under the grass, but then we realized we needed some to go in this container. So we took a few out. There's now 8, or there were 8 under the straw and 8 under the grass. We put 3 in here. So let's see what kind of harvest we get from this. Look at that. Beautiful. Now that looks pretty good, and one nice thing about these container grown potatoes, just like the ones under grass, there's almost no, in fact I can't see any mouse damage. That's a real benefit of the containers. Right, so this is the harvest from the container grown potatoes. I'm going to take out all the ones that are of useful size, but any that are just tiny, we're not going to count those because that's not really suitable for dinner. So I'll pop those in there, and all the decent ones will weigh. Zero the scales. There we go. All right, so those 3 potatoes from the container grown ones are 842 grams. So we'll divide that by 3 to come up with a total, or an average, per plant. Right, so the next batch is the ones that were under straw. Now, unfortunately, we did lose a lot due to the mice, so we'll not be weighing these. And a lot of them are just now sort of hollow shells. So we'll put those aside. But we do have some really enormous ones. That's impressive. Right, so that's 1,564 grams of potatoes. Some of them are quite large, like I showed you, but also some of them have a little bit of green on. So I'm thinking the sunlight was able to penetrate the straw, or maybe the straw cover wasn't quite as good. So that's something to bear in mind. Right, so under the grass, we got 2,229 grams worth of potatoes, and very, very few losses due to mice. Only a few nibbles on the ends of a couple of them. So there you go, the results of our no-dig Christmas potato trials. These were grown in the container, these were grown under grass clippings, and these were grown under straw. There's a couple of things you'll notice straight away. First off, there's far fewer on this side, but there were only 3 seed potatoes, whereas here we had 8 seed potatoes. The next thing you'll probably notice is this sad bowl of mouse-destroyed potatoes. There's no real way to account for how much weight of potatoes we lost, because a lot of them will be in the tummies of the mice that were enjoying them, so we'll have to exclude those from the numbers. So how much did we get? Under grass clippings and in the container, we got roughly 280 grams of potatoes per seed potato and roughly 8 potatoes from each potato plant. That's quite good. Under the straw though, we only got 4 potatoes per seed potato, and it was about 200 grams of final potatoes per seed potato. Now obviously that's been heavily impacted by our losses due to the mice. I think the reason is because the mice crawl around in the straw where it's nice and warm, I suppose, and they can have a feast, which isn't very friendly. The grass must be, I don't know, wetter and ickier, and the mice just didn't seem to want to crawl around inside of it, so it protected them. So it's going to be grass clippings for us. Now one interesting thing is the potatoes grown no-dig technique under straw quite big, whereas the size of the potatoes grown in the containers is smaller. This will be because the plants can detect that they're being constrained, the roots will hit the edges of the container, and you get smaller plants that way, and consequently smaller roots. So if what you're wanting is potatoes big enough for roast potatoes or jacket potatoes, you want to grow them on the ground so they can get as big as possible. That's really impressive for just a couple of months of growth. And what also is really interesting to me is the frost didn't damage them. Like I said earlier, it got really cold outside, and it must have been several degrees below freezing in here, but the potatoes were happy and safe and didn't get any frost damage, which is fantastic. So I think we need to get inside and get cooking. So there you go, no-dig potatoes really are the only way to do it, and because they've been grown in grass or straw, the cleanup is incredibly easy. The bulk of the soil stays in the polytunnel where it belongs, and these just require a gentle rinsing, no scrubbing required. So I hope you have a wonderful Christmas. We had best get on with cooking our Christmas dinner, and thank you for watching.